So I am Falguni and I am assistant archaeologist currently working with ASI Vadodara Circle. And today we will be talking about what are the different theories and scenarios of Harappan decline. As I was also joining a little bit time before, and I heard one of the questions from one of the participants about how the such a thriving civilization declined. So this entire talk is precisely on that. And before starting, I am going to give a little bit introduction about what exactly, which chronologies we are using that I'll cover in brief, and then we'll delve into the main topic. So the main chronology is given by Jim Schaffer and Poschel. We will be using where Jim Schaffer gave four comprehensive chronological eras spanning from socio-economic evolution of northwestern subcontinent, moving from agricultural communities to the collapse of vast bronze urban layout. So early mature and late Harappan phases, which are coterminous with pre-urban, urban and post-urban of the fossil. And this early food producing era, this terminology of the eras is given by Schaffer, which covers this 7,000 to 5,000 year span, and it is a ceramic Neolithic phase where the potteries are not made, but the humans have started settling, and the domestication of animals has started, and then this phase slowly evolves into wheel-made ceramic phases, and permanent mud brick sedentary villages start appearing in this phase. And the classic example of early food producing era after this is Mehergarh site, and it is located in about 150 kilometers southeast of Quetta Valley on the Bolan River Pass. And there are other sites as well from early food producing era, such as Gul Muhammad, Ranagundai, Anjira, Mundiga, Gulma, and Dam Sadar. And this is just a beginning of the settled way of life, agricultural pastoralism of humans. And this is the why we consider Mehergarh as the most important site, which is the precursor of Harappans, is because at this site we have found the entire cultural sequence. And sometimes when we excavate the sites, we find that at some sites only one single culture is thriving, but at other sites there are multiple cultures, so that we can chronologically assess which culture is coming after which one. So Mehergarh is, that's why it is very important, because it has given this entire cultural sequence of around 7,000 years, right from a phase of a human occupation when the ceramics were handmade, then when it was the first phase of 7,000 to 6,000 BC. This was associated with mud brick houses and early road domestication, whereas the next phase is ceramic Neolithic. Here, the stone slow turned wheels are used for making the ceramics, and handmade pottery is made, coiled pottery is found. So this phase is later evolves into late Neolithic phase, where cotton cultivation has started. Then the bead making and craft is a little bit evolving. Then the next phase is early Chalcolithic phase, where potter wheel, that is fast turning wheel, is there, and copper implements are started to be used. And then it is followed by the middle Chalcolithic, where the female terracotta figurines are there. Here we can see that is evolution of the culture slowly in the earth as well. That is because every phase we have to find the sequence in the archaeological record as well, because we can easily say that yes, they started settling, then they started doing agriculture, but we have to prove it in the archaeological record. So in material culture, we find that this earliest phase we find the crude handmade pottery, which is later on getting a little bit improved, and the slow table turn pottery. Then it gets very much fined into fast wheel made pottery. Then there is a evolution of copper objects, and in the late Chalcolithic phase, we see that there is beautiful monochrome pottery, and a little bit of expansion or the interchange of trade has started in this phase, and the religion in form of mother goddess worship is also starting. And later on in the same site, we get proper Chalcolithic culture, where graveware pottery and Indus culture features are appearing. So this is Mehergarh. You can see the box-like structures are actually the bases of their houses, and the ceilings and the pottery. We might have seen the images of classical Harappan pottery, and compared to these, we can see there are some types of ceramics which are common. And Harappan seals we have seen in earlier presentation also, and these are the ceilings from Mehergarh, which are precursors of we can say Harappans. This is the beautiful pottery from Nal and Mehergarh. So after this pre-Harappan phase, we come into the regionalization era where early Harappan, starting from 4000 to 2500 BC, these are just before the Harappans. So they are coined as early Harappans. And the features of this phase are that they have highly localized regional cultural subtypes. This is just like farming villages. They have their own craft industries, early metallurgical stages of copper, and distinctly painted pottery. Also, they have polychrome pottery. That is, the base color of the pottery will be different, and on that we find paintings of white, blue, yellow, green color, and also there are distinct villages which are they have their own type of cultures like Kodiji culture, Amrinal, Soti Siswal, Damsada. These are early Harappan cultural traditions. Then the second stage is the regionalization era. In this stage, the villages of Kotiji, Amrinal, Harappa, Kalibanga, Dhulavira, Farmana, they all have this type of early precursors of mature Harappan. And here we know that in Harappan 1 is to 2 is to 4 brick ratio was followed. But in early Harappan, the brick ratio is 1 is to 2 is to 3. And they have started using mud brick houses and painted pottery. So this is precursor of Harappan. This is the spread of the early Harappan in the northwestern part of India, and I would say no Indian subcontinent, as it spreads across the India, northwestern India, then Pakistan, and up to Afghanistan. So these are the spreads of this local early Harappan cultures. Fez Mohammed Greyware culture, Nal culture, black and red ware culture, Amri culture, Koddijan culture, and Soti Siswal culture, which is found in Kalibangan in Rajasthan. So you can see the spread, and the red dotted are the sites across the region. Then there is the mature Harappan era, which is the cultural period we accept broadly as 2600 to 1900 BC. And it is the peak era of the Indus Valley Civilization. And what we are trying to discuss later about the decline, we can start from here only, that this is the expanse. This is how much large this civilization had spread. It is larger than the Egyptian civilization, and this if we see that right from the Gujarat area, the to the Iran and up to the mountainous region of Karakoram Hills, there are sites. Some sites are bigger. We call them the domain capitals, or there are some regional sites or the port centers or the we can call trade ports. So all them together, it is a very large area which they are occupying. And after that, there is localization era, which is the later phase of the Harappan, when the Harappans have started again de-urbanizing, and it starts from 1900 BCE to 1300 BCE, and it is also termed as post-urban period. And here we see that there is a breakdown of macro-regional administrative and economic structure, then characterized by the abandonment of the large or the capital cities, then the civic architecture decline, and the major markers of the Indus civilization start declining after this phase. So this, as we all know, that the expanse of the Harappan civilizations in the north is up to Manda in the Jammu Kashmir, and on the west is Shortuga in northern Afghanistan, whereas in southern frontier we have Daimabad on the Pravara river, and on the western frontier we have Sutkagandor, and the eastern frontier we have Alamgirpur in Uttar Pradesh. So this was the vast area covering the civilization. So what are the markers? And I think you all have plentifully discussed the markers, so we'll just go through these slides once. So the planned urban structures. So this background of this site is the aerial view of Mohenjo-daro, and we can see the arterial streets and blocks of the stones. And this is the view of the Dholavira town. So Dholavira is located between the two river streams or minor river streams. On the north you can see Mansar Nala, and on the south you see Nanhar Nala. So on the between these two streams, this strategically they have planned the entire parallelogram city with the fortification wall and then middle town, lower town, and the area of administrative center which was called castle. And also this is a site in the Kutch, so water was very important for them, and they have built a large number of reservoirs with two major reservoirs in the central part of the town. So this was very important to have a good civic management, and it is a major marker of the Harappan civilization. This one is the Dholavira again, with the two streams, Mansar and Manhar, on the north and the south, and the buildings inside. You can also see the reservoirs inside the city. And this is the plan of the Mohenjo-daro. As we know that there are arterial streets, parallel streets, and 90-degree streets. Also, the houses at Mohenjo-daro, they don't have windows or the openings right on the main highway, not on the main street. The openings will be on the internal gullies. So this is also one important feature, because there will be bullock carts going on, and there will be dust going on the streets, which should not enter directly from the windows of the houses. So the windows are not directed on the main streets; they are on the internal sides. So the second features is the public architecture. So for building a public architecture, a particular kind of civic man force is required. To build such a huge tank or the bathing house, a large amount of man force, public money, and labor is required, for which social hierarchy is required, which is only possible when there is some kind of administrative system and there is some kind of social hierarchy. There is a ruling class, whoever that may be. That might be a ruling government of their democratic kind, or there might be some primitive form of priest king or any government, but they have it, because otherwise it is not possible to have such combined effort to build such a public structure. So this is one important marker, and it is not like that public bath or any monumental architecture is found only at Mohenjo-daro. There are other buildings such as Harappan Granary. This is one conjectural view of a granary at Harappa. On the right side, we have this conjectural view produced by Mortimer Wheeler, where we see that how grains or the um, crop could be stored in a granary. And on the left, we have the actualistic view of a granary from Harappan excavation. During the time of excavation, they have clicked this view, and we see that how the weight is being hefted by the lower standing labor, and it is getting pulled up by the labor who is standing upstairs. And the same they have tried to show in a conjectural view on the right. And this is also a public granary. No one will have this kind of a huge structure or a granary for a home. So people must have been storing this food for the time of crisis, or this might be some kind of a tribute given to the government in form of a tax. The third commonly known structure of public building is the Lothal dockyard, and we know that Lothal was a trade center. It is a famous Harappan port town, and it is this dockyard. If you see, it is 230 meter by around 37 meter and around 4 meter depth. So such a large water reservoir and with inlet, and this was most probably used for foreign trade, international trade, as evident by the seals and ceilings which are found from the excavations at Lothal. The excavations at Lothal also revealed certain the warehouse structure in which there was a ramp to hold the goods up into the warehouse, stack the goods into the warehouse. So this was a trade-related structure, and also when the trade is being controlled by the state, then such kind of large reservoir could be made. So this is the Dholavira water reservoir. If you see the height of the man standing across the trench, you can easily understand how big it is. So then there is a script. The If we see the pre-Harappan cultures and the post-Harappan cultures, what is changing is this script and the use of the script in the seals and CDs and also in the graffiti on the pottery. We can see that this particular there is a complete analysis of the script done by the scholars, and it includes that which number of symbols are there and what can be the meaning of this, but there is no decipherment on which everyone is confirmed at present. But one thing we can say is that it is used for controlling the trade on the ceilings. And this is the another Harappan signboard found from Dholavira, and this is the longest inscription. It has 9 letters, and there is no other inscription of Harappan script which is more than 9 letters. So that is the main reason why the script is not being deciphered, because we don't have longer sentences. As we know that Brahmi was deciphered when there was repetitive use of the word Danam at the end of the sentences, and there are so many Brahmi inscriptions, so it became easier to decipher the script. But in case of Harappan script, it is very difficult because there is no commonality in the script, and only short symbols are found in the script. So the next thing is the standardized brick size. I think earlier also 1:2:4 ratio of the brick size, which is found only in the Harappan's architecture, was discussed. And the funny part is not only this brick size is used. In the wedge shaped bricks are also there. There are variations in brick size, and they are used in header stature format. That is, when they build the houses, 2 bricks straight, then one on the head. In this way, it provides a very good strength to the structure, and the thing was used by Harappans, but it is called as English bond. So these English bond structures are very common in the Harappan civilization mature phase. And then the large amount of trade that they were doing, of course, they needed weights and measures. And in mature Harappan times, the picture you see in the center, the chert weights, these are very, very common. And the rohri chert, which is this beige to light sand colored object. It's the stone from the Rohri Sindh in Pakistan. This stone was commonly used. It is easy to chip, but it does not wear out easily. And this was found in the classical Harappan sites. And also some carnelian and chalcedony weights are also found. And for measurement, the scales which were used, we have 2 examples, one from Lothal, one from Dholavira, where ivory scales are found for measurement. And this was a small, there were 2-dimensional measure system, like smaller weights, or if you want to measure gold or silver, not silver, if gold or the bone objects or steatite bead objects, then you need a smaller scale. For that, you have these smaller weights of chert or chalcedony. And if you want to measure the heavier objects, like more than 2 kilograms or heavier objects like rice, you want to measure cotton or other goods, barley, then you cannot use these small weights. So that there is sandstone weight system. The weights you see on the left side, these are these heavy stone weights. So this kind of dual measurement system existed. And then there is arts and craft. The most famous art craft is the shell industry. Then there is a gold industry, and also the common public jewelry of terracotta is also there, and copper jewelry is also there. Then also the population they must have had kids also who need to be entertained. So in the leisure time we need all of us need some sports. So these are some sports goods, and this tradition of manufacturing a particular kind of toys or games and the dices or toy cards. This particularly mature Harappan periods art forms. These are found in all the classical Harappan sites like Med Biraki Gadi, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Kalibanga, Lothal. We find this particular type of Harappan dice everywhere, and this kind of small toy cut fragments or the whistles or the small monkey figurines or terracotta animal figurines, these are found with exact, I will not say exact, but similar art forms in these entire all mature Harappan sites. So this is also one of the features which is commonly found in this uh, civilization, mature phase of civilization. Then one most important thing is ceramic repertoire. At present, whatever we define as a Harappan culture, the main marker is ceramic. Why? Because ceramics are the most commonly found objects at Harappan sites. Not only Harappan, any archaeological site. Ceramic fragments are the most abundant, followed by the animal bones. So, at a site like Lothal, where you find 10 years of excavation, almost 100 seals are found. 10 years, 100 seals. But pottery, you get hundreds of kilograms of pottery. And so it makes it difficult, it makes it easier to have understanding of a site when you have the good quantity of objects. And understanding the nature of the site, changing civilization pattern also becomes easier if you have more about amount of data. So pottery becomes one most important mark. And the next is the trade. I think speaker earlier was talking about a boat from Lothal, and I have fortunately the photo of this boat which was found from the excavation of Lothal in 1960s. So these are the two boat models which were recovered by S.R. Rao while excavating the site of Lothal. And down is the clay tablet with cuneiform writing, Mesopotamian. And this I have placed just to show how the trade linkages were there. We all know that the trade was there just as because the goods that were imported, they are found here, and the exported goods are found across in the other sites. So what was traded? And I'll show the table of what was traded later. Just see how it was traded. So the one important good that was traded was the liquid material. We don't know whether it was wine that was traded or it was the oils, olive oils, or such material, or the what exactly was traded in this. There are researches which show that it was kind of wine substance, which was alcoholic substance, which was traded through this jar. This is called as a black slip jar. It is a marker of Harappan trade. Why? Because these kind of jars are produced in Oman and they were used for trade of the liquid material. And you see that this jar, if you keep it on the ground, it will not stand on its own. It has a very narrow base. So this black slip jars, why it is called black slip? Because it has a thin paste or a thin slip. We call it in pottery slips. It is paste inside and outside also. This thick paste or a slip makes it impervious to the seepage of water or liquids. So while transporting the liquid material long distance, such black slips jars were used by the Harappan people, and they were durable, and they also they were transported by hefting them in this kind of stand in the hull of the ship, in the lower part of the ship. So this is the chart which shows where all the black slip jars were located from the excavations. We have Bagasra, Lothal, Rangpur, Oman, then Russell here, Russell Junias. These are the sites across the valley. And if we see across the Arabian coast, and if we see that the distance by means of a ship is far lesser than if we see by the land. So this where transport was happening through the ships. So what was going? Pottery was going, black slip jars were going, semi-precious stone beads were going, shell objects like beads and ladles were going. So on the right side we see the find spot, that is the pottery of the Indus tradition is found in Rasal Junias. Then black slip jars are found in Russell Hut, Russell Jeans, Amla, Bath, Ras Amla, Sotka. These are sites on the eastern coast, and so it shows that the Indus trade was happening, and objects from the Indus Valley are being traded to the outside world. The copper and gold bronze objects are found. Uh, then the seals and ceilings are also found in the other lands. Then this was about this slide was about only the objects, the finished goods. Then there is the raw material as well. For example, at most of the Harappan sites, the common blades which we find are made up of chert, and this chert is a rohari coming from Rohari Hill in Sindh and Pakistan. So these rohari chert blades are common in Mohenjo-daro, Dhulavira, Harappa, Lothal, and many other sites. Similarly, marine shells, then agate and carnelian beads, dolomite, steatite, then all the alabaster, the raw materials basically. The raw materials are being imported from different regions. This limestone, lead, silver, copper, lapis lazuli. As the lapis lazuli is even brought from Badakhshan region in Afghanistan. So this kind of large distance, long distance trade is going on. So what happened? What exactly happened in such a good trade network collapse, the civilization collapse, and why and how we understand that there is a collapse? So we don't see that one day there is an entire civilization is collapsing. So what is it? It is a gradual decline. There is a gradual disappearance. There is migration, right? So these are some factors like climate change, river dynamics, trade decline, regionalization and deurbanization, archaeological evidence for decline, and transition into the later cultures. We will one by one discuss all these factors. So when we say that there is a decline, what exactly we mean? Is there a reduction in size of the settlement, or there is a number of settlements, a reduction in number of settlements? Like for example, in mature period, you have a settlement of around 1 lakh person or 10,000 person, and in the late Harappan period, if you have 100 persons villages, 10 villages. So would you call it a decline? Just that a 10,000 person city has broken down and 10 more villages are. Is it a decline? Then that is exactly changing settlement pattern. Then trade network collapse. What is exactly trade network? Does it mean that now they are not trading in gold, silver, copper, and they are trading in some smaller goods, perishable goods? Or it means that no trade is happening and abandonment of major cities? We say that Hadappa, Mohenjo-daro, Rakhigadi, they started collapsing. All the people start deserting the towns. Then where do they go? Is there a migration? So all these factors we'll see. So we'll start with Mohenjo-daro. Mohenjo-daro, many of the earlier archaeologists like Marshall, Wheeler, all of those who actually were excavating these major cities, they called Mohenjo-daro as capital city, because the markers of the civilization that were formulated, they were all present in magnanimous term in this city. So in the last phase of this Mohenjo-daro cultural sequence, that is the topmost strata of the excavated remain, they found that the earlier phases they had a very well planned city, and in the last phases the planning has already collapsed. So on the left you see the photograph, a squatter type structure that is haphazardly made. There is no proper planning. The 90-degree street plan is not followed. Anyone is building house anywhere. In between the streets also you will find certain houses are being made. Then they are not following the street, the pattern of brick sizes. What they are doing, they are poor. So what they are using, they rob off the bricks of the earlier constructed structure and they reuse the bricks. Then on the right you see a brick wash or toilet cubicle, plaster floor of late period. So this is the area which was filled up with dirt and debris, and They are using whatever available material to fill up the areas and build up shabby structures on the top of the neatly built structures. Then first, when Mohenjo-daro was being excavated, they found this on the right. You see the image. This image is one of the images of the skeletons that they found at the Mohenjo-daro, and what they felt is there are certain invasions and there are people coming from outside who have ransacked the city and killed the population here. And at that time, Mortimer Wheeler sir had put out a statement that Indra stands accused because in the Rigveda there is a mention of this Purandara, that is the destroyer of the fortified town. So Mohenjo-daro was fortified, and some outer person who came inside and invaded the city and killed the population. This theory got a root somehow by Max Muller also, and Stuart P. Gordon. They all boosted this idea that there was an Aryan invasion who killed the population, and that led to the decline of the Mohenjo-daro. However, when Kenneth Kennedy he was an anthropologist. He studied the skeletons of the massacred or the so-called massacred victims, and it showed that the person who had died, the injuries which they had already healed before their death, and it showed that the death did not cause at the same time for all the skeletons, and this mean of disposal of the dead is the reason that it shows that it is a massacre, but it is not of the same period. So these skeletons are haphazardly discarded. There is no proper burial system, and that's why it looks like that it is some kind of a war scene. However, it is a subsequent event of burial wherein proper burial customs are not followed. So this is not a massacre scene. Furthermore, there is a chronological issue. That is, over the period of 400 years, this successive burial has happened. So if someone has invaded and ransacked the city, it should have happened in the same cultural phase, but it is not. So this led to the complete decline of refutal of the theory of Aryan invasion. Then the second thing was the tectonic upliftment theory. So hydrologist Robert Reichs and archaeologist George Dales, they put forward this theory in 1960. And here they say that Sehwan is a town which is roughly 90 miles south of Mohenjo-daro, and due to tectonic upliftment, there is a movement of the land, that is massive uplift of the earth crust, and it led to formation of a dam, and the earth's crust got lifted and natural dam was formed. So it blocked the Indus River and formed a lake. So due to the water from this lake, there was a successive eroding of the site, and people at Mohenjo-daro, they were forced to again and again rebuild the city, and this led to the exhaustion of their resources, and they started leaving the site. This is the dam formation theory, dam formation and flood theory given by Rakes and Dales. So this idea, where they got this idea. So in 1819, there was an event, similar event had happened, where there was a massive earthquake and a dam was naturally formed, which is called Allahband event. It is called Allahband because in India you can all understand that by the wrath of Allah, a stream of river got completely blocked. So Indus River was blocked by similar dam formation, and it led to large number of sites being deprived of water. So from this, the theory had came. However, it was massively opposed by archaeologists, because in this region, when we see that the rivers are very prone to providing natural flood waters. Whenever there is a monsoon, the river gets flooded and it leaves its banks and deposits large amount of mud on the banks, on the either banks, which leads to muddy banks and deposition of flood deposits, which look like there might be a large flood. However, it is a completely natural phenomena. Every year it occurs, And if you see that flood deposit accumulated over the years, you might feel that there was a massive flood and it occurred that it destroyed the city. However, it has not happened. So this was also a refuted theory. So the third theory, which was the upliftment of Pakistan side coastline. If you see today as well, there are certain sites like Sutkagandor, then Balakot and Sutkaku. I have highlighted them in the red. You can see that if you visit these sites today, they are inland, that is around 50 km inland of the coast, and they are port cities of the Harappan times. So how does it fit? It clearly is a marker that the coastline has uplifted and the sea has receded. So this has happened around 2000 BC when there was an earthquake, and it led to detrimental effect on the coastal side, and the sites got disturbed. So these sites were having trade; they were a part of the trade network which was formed between the Iran and all that Bahrain, Dilmun, and India trade network. So the next theory is the river Indus theory. So we all know that the Harappan civilization has been recently called as the Indus civilization or Indus Saraswati civilization, and the river Indus and Saraswati river is also called as Gaggar Hakra system. So on the left, I have purposely shown the image of the river Indus in the Himalayas, how it looks, and this drying up of the Gaggar Hakra system. This is one of the major reasons why put forward by the archaeologists like Michel Denino, Rafiq Mughal, and Yashpal. And there are other 6-7 archaeologists who and hydrologists and tectonic archaeologists, geologists who put forward this theory. So they say that this Gaggar Hakra river system was individually, this was a major Himalayan river which was having a massive flow of water, and due to the tectonic movement, some of the tributaries of this river were they changed their course, they got diverted, which led to the reduction in the flow of the water, and it slowly led to the Gaggar Hakra river system being a perennial river to a seasonal stream and entirely dependent on the annual monsoons. So this glacier-fed Satluj River and Yamuna River, they were both emptying into the Indus and Sindhu Saraswati River. However, the later on when the tectonic movement happened, this Y2 channel, Satluj channel, Yamuna channel, they all started going into their own different ways and um, robbed the Gaggar Hakra basin of its major source of water. So to prove that this Harappan site static distribution is given, and wherein the early Harappan, if we see the total number, in early Harappan phase, there is 640 number of sites. Mature Harappan, we have 360 number of sites, whereas in late Harappan, we have 1378 sites. So these 360 mature Harappan sites, they include major towns and populous cities, whereas in late Harappan, we have 1378 number. So in terms of number of sites, the number is increasing. However, if you see the size of the size of the site is not more than 3 to 5 hectares. So these big cities, they are getting broken down, and small hamlets, small villages, they are found. So as we learned about the Schaffer's integration era, deurbanization era, so this fits into that era system. And in the late period, we again have the deurbanized, or what we say disintegrated system of rural areas. So when this system was analyzed, this is the scenario where we see Saraswati, Satluj river and the major sites, how it shapes. In the left hand top, you can observe the diagram where on the bank of Saraswati, you see the almost even distribution of the site across the channel. But on the right top, you see the Himalayan footprints. And in this Himalayan footprints, almost no sites are there, one or two sites in the first phase, early phase. And as we go into the mature phase, we see that the distribution is more towards the Ganweriwala or the Deravar fort in the lower left plan, and then gradually the number of settlements at the foothill of the Himalayas is increasing, and then in the lowermost, the late Harappan, you see the middle banks, they get completely what we'll say, it's very much deserted of Harappan sites, whereas the concentration of the sites is more towards the foothills of the Himalayas and at the base of the Derawa Fort region or Satluj banks. So this was the distribution that was found in the period. However, one important thing is when geologists started to date this phenomenon. So when this thing happened that Indus started losing Satluj and Yamuna and other paleo when to understand when this shift happened, geologists started doing paleoclimatic studies on the lake sediments of the Rajasthan lake. So one most important study that we follow is of Gurdeep Singh, where in 1971 he had taken the deposits of the Dhunaksar lake in Rajasthan, and he has found, along with other scientists like R. Ramesh, that the sediments showed that this shift has happened 10,000 years before, and at least 10,000. It might have happened before that. So it proves that before the Harappans entered the scenario, the river shift has already happened. And Harappan started living in this basins of this river right after this shift of the rivers. So this whole Indus theory becomes a little bit shaky. So what is the next scenario? What is the next theory that is put forward? This is the most accepted, or I think it is the most fitting at now at present. Is the 4.2K event or the global climate shift event, which is also called as the start of the Meghalayan age, and it is drawn from the Earth science data, and it shows that weakening of the Indian summer monsoon. So 4.2 thousand years, that is around 2012 and 200 years before present, before Christ, there was a change in the monsoon pattern and aridity had set in. So we know that the Indus River system and the Ghaggar-Hakra systems, they are not completely perennial now, and they are dependent on the monsoon very much. And when this monsoon starts weakening, then the double cropping pattern of the Harappans started to threaten. So we know from paleobotanical analysis that the Indus people were doing double cropping. They were having monsoon crop as well as a rabi crop. And when the monsoon dwindles, their entire economy dwindles. So this is the reason, one of the reasons which is stated that the monsoon led to direct aridity, lack of monsoon, direct aridity, and due to the lack of monsoon, their agriculture and their main subsistence got strengthened, and this led to their dispersal from their mainlands. So there is another theory also of overexploitation of landscape, and it was first put forward by Wheeler, where he says that, as we know, that the Harappans were having the agro-pastoral mode of economy. The Harappans, what they did, they had extensive use of animal and plant resources. Also, they were using timber for building up their houses. So when they were shifting or they were expanding their settlements, they completely exploited the regions. They did the double cropping and they did the trade and used the timber. They hunted the animals in the surroundings. So they exploited the landscape around. They expanded when they could not use the resources from the same area, and in this way they overall started exploiting the landscape, and this also led to the destruction. So after discussing these 4-5 theories, we will look what exactly these are theories, but what the archaeological record tells us. So after the area, after these reasons, which reasons suit which scenario? For example, the region that led to the decline of Mohenjo-daro cannot be the same as that of the Lothal, or that cannot be the same for Kalibanga, because these areas are completely different. Their ecological setting is different. So though they have the same culture, there might be certain variations in the reasons why the culture is declining. So how we understand in archaeological record that the particular Indus city is declining. So as I showed, the poorly constructed structures, loss of civic planning, trade network disruption, then the migration as found in Saurashtra, Ganga, Yamuna, Doab, and emergence of later cultures which are not having any parallel with Harappan marker traditions, such as symmetry culture, Jhangar, Jukar, and Northwest frontier, the core cultures. So next, we will discuss all these cultures which come as in their each particular domain. So at Harappa, when we find the decline of the Harappa, that is the classical mature Harappan phase, when it ends, there is a cultural hiatus. What does it mean? There is a period of sterile, or there is a particular period where there is no occupation, and followed by that there is a period of symmetry H culture. This culture is dated to 1900 to 1300 BC, and during this period we find the structures are very sketchy, poorly built. Then pottery, however, is good. They have very nice pottery forms and paintings, as you see on this dish. And then there are burial practices are changing. In the classical Harappan, we know that there are burials with north-south orientation, and there is ceramics buried along with the burials. There are coffin burials with wooden coffin around them. But in this phase, we find that the burial practice of coffin burials start disappearing, and urn burials is found. Also, the subsistence pattern is changing, where summer crops of rice are increasing, and barley and rabi crops is reducing. Then the imported trade goods like lapis lazuli, which was imported from Afghanistan, Badakhshan mountain ranges, and shell artworks, they start decreasing. Also, there is no cultural parallel, like the pottery and art, they are not parallel with the mature Harappan phase. So, as I was saying about the burial practice, these are the inhumation burials, and after the inhumation of the human body or the dead, they are buried in these pots. On the right top, we see a small child burial from the pot. Then coming to the area of Mohenjo-daro, or the Sindh area. In this area, the sites like Amri, Lahunjo-daro, Jukar, Channu-daro, and Mohenjo-daro, we see that the site is gradually abandoned, and after abandonment, there is a post-Harappan culture in form of Jukar or Jangar. These are the type site villages where this coarse pottery producing culture is found, and this pottery has black paintings with red and cream sleeve, and round button seals are found. So coming next is the Haryana Punjab region. So in Haryana and Punjab region, we have pre-Harappan, early Harappan, mature Harappan, followed by Siswal and Mitathal. So Siswal and Mitathal period 2B culture is the post-Harappan, which is followed by the mature Harappan in Punjab and Haryana region. And the Bara culture, this is also one post-Harappan type, particularly found in Punjab region. And it is again followed by the painted gravel culture. Painted glassware is a fabric of pottery where smooth and very fine pots of painted with black designs, grey colored pots are found. So as I said, the Siswal and Mitathal period are the post-Harappan cultures of Haryana. In that, the type sites are Siswal and Mitathal, and here we see that the settlements are made away from the perennial rivers because the rivers can cause flooding damage. So they are a preferred area to settle, which is outside the floodplain. And pottery are mainly Harappan types, but there is certain variation in redware. So also they are from in Harappan we find that the burnt brick and mud brick both structures are found, but here and they are mostly rectangular in plan. But in Mitathal and Siswal regions we have dwelling pits, circular pits are found, and some mud brick houses are found. Also burials are found in the sand dunes. Then the late Harappan painted graveware sites like Medina has yielded different variety of painted graveware with redware. So this PGW is generally called as the successor of the Harappan culture in many of the Haryana sites, and these people used to live in the mud brick structures and wattle and dog structures. So this is the site of Mitathal. It's in Bhiwani district of Haryana. It's in the catchment area of Yamuna River. And this is the hearth. Hearth is generally used for, there are different kinds of hearth, mostly used for household cookings, or there are used for steatite or the other semi-precious stone, bead heating and craft heating. Then there are hearths which are specifically used for particular crafts. And these are the pits which are used for storage of grains. And this is also from Mitathal. Then another is the painted pottery and antiquities. These are terracotta cakes on the lower left side, and the bangles and beads and bangles. So when we come to Rajasthan, we have other cultures which are not only in Rajasthan, actually in the entire Harappan and in the entire northwestern region of India, as well as in the central region, there are certain cultures which are coexisting with Harappans. So we know Harappans as one type of habitation of the cultural people, but they are not living on their own in a cultural scenario. There are other people of other communities or other cultures which are also coexisting with them. They are trading with them. They are having matrimonial alliances with them, and they are just coexisting very smoothly. So these cultures are called as local rural cultures, or we can also call them by their type site names. So in Rajasthan, we have such North Ganesh. In the north, we have Ganesh or Jodhpura culture, and in the south, we have Banas culture. So as we know that Rajasthan, we have Khetri mines, which are very common, very well utilized source of copper since Chalcolithic times. So for the exploitation of this copper resources, maybe this kind of um, exchange with the local rural population of these cultures was taking place with the Harappans. So this North Ganeshwar Jodhpura. So in North Rajasthan, we have Jodhpura, where they are called as the first settlers of the OCP. Now, what is OCP? OCP is the ochre colored pottery. So this is a wheel turned pottery with deep red slip, and these people of the OCP culture they are also said to be the coexistent, or right after Harappan we find their occupation phase in the cultural deposit. So Jodhpura people were using copper objects, they were using terracotta objects, stone objects, bone points, and they are followed by the black and red ware culture, which is also found in the Ahar region of Rajasthan. So these are coexistent. And also at Ganeshwar, we have found Jodhpura ware, which is along with animal bones and circular huts, then floors paved with river pebbles. So these are the rural people. Like we are living in the metro cities today, and there are rural cultures which are living in the small areas around us. They might not be following our same cultural idioms. They might not be using the same material that we use in the cities, but they have their own set of implements, their own set of beliefs and culture, and we have contact with them. Similar to that, in the Harappan times as well, these Ganeshwar, Jodhpura, Ahar, Banas culture people, they were living with Harappans and trading with Harappans. So one such site is Gilund, and what is more special about this small site is it has yielded a public granary-like structure. You see these platforms where parallel mud bricks walls are found, and also a silo and this earth-like structure is found. So this might be a granary. So when it was excavated in 1999 to 2002 by Deccan College, this kind of structures were found. So in Western Rajasthan, we have Ahar Banas, which flourished around 3000 to 1600 BC, and around 91 sites of this culture have been found. So the type sites include Ahar, Balathal, Gilund, Ojiana, Marmi, and these people were living in mud bricks. And they have also made some fortifications as found from Balathal, and mud brick structures were also very common. Their pottery types included black and red ware and typical bright red slipware, tan ware, thin slip red ware, and reserve slipware. And also, Balathal has yielded an animal burial and few human burials. So this is the site of Balathal. And so coming to Gujarat, in Gujarat we have a very typical scenario as I explained in Rajasthan. In Gujarat region also, there were from Neolithic time Gujarat was being inhabited by human beings, and in northern Gujarat we have this Anartha culture, which is also pre-Harappan culture, and in there is pre-Prabhas and Padri culture, which is contemporary to mature Harappan, whereas Prabhas culture, which is also contemporary and little late to mature Harappan. Whereas the late culture, if we see, there is lustrous redware culture. So, what is the scenario? What do we understand about Gujarat? So, in Gujarat, before Harappans came, there was a Neolithic tradition which was developing into Chalcolithic tradition in form of a Anartha culture. And around 2400 BC, there was influx of Sindhi Harappans from Mohenjo-daro and Sindh side, and they have infiltrated. And when they have come and encountered the people who are living here in the Gujarat region, and they are started intermingling with the local population here. Then who was there at this point of time with, living in the Gujarat? These are local and the people at the sites like Rojdi, where a Sorat culture is found. So local people who are living already in the Gujarat region, the Sorat culture people, they start intermingling with the Harappans coming from the northern domains or the western domains like Sindh, and they start trying to interchanging the ideas. Also, in the northern Gujarat, we see that the local rural inhabitant population, they are also living, and they are also intermingling for trade for the other goods. They are also exchanging the material with the Sorat person, and later on with the Harappans who are coming here. So at the sites like Dholavira, Kot, Lothal, this coexistence with local rural culture starts. So Anartha culture. This north region of Gujarat, we have important sites like Loteshwar, Datrana, Santhil, Fort Moti Pipi, and these sites they have structures like ram mud floors where they use variety of pottery like black and red ware, reserve slipware, fine red ware, buff ware, gritty ware, burnished red ware, and shapes which are found in the pottery include bowls, basin, dishes, dish on stands, and the burials are also found at sites like Santli, where child burial and adult burial were found. So this was a Anartha culture, which is typical of North Gujarat, and it starts right from the pre-Harappan time. And coming to the Saurashtra region, in Saurashtra we have Prabhas culture, which is the excavation of Prabhas. Prabhas, we know it as the Somnath, famous for the Somnath temple. Here multiple seasons of excavation has taken place, and this is the cultural sequence that was found, where pre-Prabhas culture goes right back to 3000 BC, then early Prabhas starting from 2200 to the 1700 BC. So you see that this early Prabhas phase is contemporaneous to the mature Harappan phase, more or less, then followed by Prabhas culture. This is the late Harappan culture that we are talking about. Then it is followed rightly by the early historic and Kshatrapa Gupta period. So this is the structure of the Prabhas excavation photo. And coming to the Kutch region, in Kutch, this is the entire scenario of Gujarat. If we see the map, the Saurashtra region and the Gulf of Khambat and the series of sites located along the Gulf. And in that we have this Lothal also and Orio Timbo. And then there is typical sites like Kirsara and Desalpur, then Dholavira, Pabumat, Surkotada, Kanmer, Unikuran. So these are all Harappan sites. Also major Harappan sites in Gujarat after S.V. Rajesh. S.V. Rajesh from the MSU did his PhD from MSU on the regions of the Gujarat and later Chalcolithic sites around the region. And if anyone is interested in this regions of or the cultures of Gujarat, you can see his PhD dissertation. He is currently working as a head of the department in Kerala University, and he has extensively surveyed the regions of Gujarat to understand how there is this cultural parallels and how they are intermingling with the Harappans. So this is one of the his papers from which this photo is taken, and you can see this. There is a plenty of sites of rural Harappans and Harappans, typical Harappans, which are there in the Gujarat region. So in the Gujarat, what we see in the decline. So in the gradual transition of Harappan to late Harappan is visible at excavation of Dholavira in stage 6, Lothal B, Surkotada period 1B, and Rangpur period 2A and 2C. So what is seen is the Harappan ceramic is changing. There are new ceramic types, there are new paintings, and there is the entire fabric is changing, and the structures are changing from rubble, from the neatly built stone and mud brick structure to haphazardly built rubble stone structure. We find this Bagasra, Dhalavira, Surkotada. Then seals, the Harappan seals, disappearing. So at Dholavira, you see on the top left how the quarters of the Dholavirians were, how they were well planned with stones. They have rectangular structures with gullies. Whereas on the right side, this is also Dholavira, but this is the last phase of the occupation. So from the rectangular structures, we are shifting into bongas. These are called bongas. These structures will have wattle and dock construction with wooden superstructure and the thatch roof superstructure. And this is the kind of architecture that is found in the last phase. Further, we have Rangpur culture, lustrous redware culture, which is dated to around 2000 to 1400 BC. And here the Harappan ceramic type is completely changing. We have lustrous redware. From the name also we can understand that it is a very shiny reddish colored pottery with fine fabric, fast wheel made, and it has oxidized inner core. And this is also associated with black and red ware. So the house structure also changes. Then at Rangpur, this type of pottery was very prominently found, and it was named afterwards. And also many types of, this is a stud handle bowl which is also found in the Saurashtra Gujarat region, and this bowl is mostly for liquid holding. Coming to the another side, which is the trade outpost of the Harappans in the southernmost part in the Lothal region. So this was the side. This is the aerial view before the drones came in picture. For taking the aerial view, this is a helicopter click, and we see that the river bed on the right and on the central part we have A to B to C, D, E, F, and G part. All these are the different areas where the excavation was carried out in a long span of time from 1955 to 1962 by Archaeological Survey of India, and this is around 7.5 hectare site. So what was the problem in Harappan chronology? So at Gujarat in Lothal, we have two periods which were defined by S.R. Rao, the excavator of the site, and they were starting from 2450 and ending at period B 1600 BC. So there is no post-Harappan phase in Lothal. So what he put forward is that the Harappans have migrated from Lothal to the nearby site of Rangpur, where we find the late Harappan period. So for understanding and for verifying this theory, also for understanding the exact dates when this migration might have happened and how the cultural changes occurring at the site of Lothal. Excavations were reopened in the last season in 25-26 by Archaeological Survey of India, Vadodara Circle, under supervision of Dr. Shubha Muzumdar, and it was found. This is the cultural deposit that was found, and we find that there was a flood that after the level 7 and between the level 6, we have found a flood deposit. And now we are trying to date when this flood has happened and what was the effect of the flood on the changing structure and changing culture, and did it actually lead to the this migration of the Harappans, or there is successive after this phase or so there is habitation of flood. So this is the work in progress, and these are the structures from the last season of excavation. And this is the pottery which is found from the excavation. Then, as I was saying, the Rohri church blades, which have been imported raw materials from the Rohri regions in the Sindh. Then the shell bangles, bone points, ivory, and terracotta gamesmen, terracotta spindle wheels. There are some antiquities. Then we come to Ganga Valley. In Ganga Valley, what we find in the cultural sequence is the mature Harappan is followed by late Harappan, followed by upper colored pottery culture, followed by the painted gravel culture. So, in the sites like Alamgirpur, Hulas, Bahadarabad, Manpur, Amkheri, Atranjikera, Lal Kila, we have found this copper ore culture. What is a copper ore culture? Here in the tools we have this particular kind of copper tools, which includes number 1 is the anthropomorphic figurine. Then there are antennae swords, barbed swords, then the celts, chisels. These are very sturdy, very heavy instruments, and its craftsmanship is of a good quality as compared to the Harappan craftsmanship. And they have a core, very dense core. Weight of the metal is very good, and they have used technology which is far superior, and there is a very minimal rusting. So one of such large copper ore was found from Bungaria in Madhya Pradesh, and it contains 424 artifacts, also from Saipai. And the associated with this copper implements is the pottery of OCP type, the ochre colored pottery. And the very important and significant site which was excavated and also re-excavated by Prabhakar sir and Manju sir. Manju sir excavated last year, whereas Prabhakar sir excavated long back around 10 to 12 years before. And this site has yielded very interesting find. Many of you might have seen the documentary on this site by Manoj Vajpayee. And if you have not, please see it on the Discovery. And it shows how this Sanauli site was inhabited by the people of copper ore culture, and what were their implements there, and also importantly how their burial practices were, and what was the nature of their livelihood, because these people are warrior people. The graves that we were found, they're found with chariot, they're found with shields and arrowheads. So of course they are carrying out the activity of warfare. And as we say that in the Harappan, we don't find any warrior or clan or no the warrior instruments or the arms and armors. But this site we have found arms and armlets, the shield and the OCP and copper implements. So it proves that though Harappans were not themselves manufacturing or using these items, the culture which came next to them, they were using this kind of defense means. So we have discussed all this foreign invasion, trade decline, tectonic factors, Indus River, aridity factors. So I don't think that for entire collapse of the civilization, any one factor is responsible. Of course, the migrations are happening. The river is drying. There is a change in the monsoon pattern, and of course, there is tectonic upliftment, which has happened in the coastal regions of Sutkak and Sutkak and Kovu. So which is evident from the shifting of the sea. So some of the evidence are very clear cut, but its effect on the population that remains to be seen. And finally, we come to the very astonishing research which was done and published by Vasant Shinde, Neeraj Rai, and their colleagues, which was published in Cell Journal in 2019, wherein the Rakhigarhi excavation they first time attempted to isolate the DNA from a burial, and they have found from a 4,500-year-old female skeleton they were able to isolate DNA, and they did the genome sequencing, which showed that how the Harappan ancestry might have been. And to carry out this research and compare the Harappan DNA, they had taken thousands of samples of Indian DNA and Pakistan DNA, and they have compared how the Harappan genome has still survived, and there is ancestry of Harappan still available in the Indian population, in the entire Southeast Asian population. And they have also tried to trace the ancestry of the Harappans and they found that they had the hunter-gatherer roots of the Southeast Asians. And the thing that we see is though we find that the Harappans have vanished in their proper marked cultural themes, but their DNA or they have intermingled or they have got mixed and they have commingled with the populations of the rural persons and their DNA is survived. Also, one thing is very clear that they are our ancestors, and in the regions of Haryana, if you will carry out a survey or if you visit today, the when we were excavating in the Rakhigarhi, we used to go into the villages and we see that the town planning, the Harappan village and the village of rural village of Haryana, even today they have similar plans. Their huts, they have small houses. Wherever you see the old houses, their town planning, their building style, it is same to the Harappan style. Even their huts are for boiling milk. They have a small hearth in outside where they will boil milk for days, and the same vessel is used every day for boiling the milk. Even today in our household, we keep the milk vessel apart, and we do not boil anything else in that vessel. So similarly, the Harappan villages might have used such things, which has led to the study of the this ceramic residue analysis to understand which type of food grains or food liquids they were using and consuming. So in this way, the traditions of the Harappans, the gene of Harappan is still alive with us. Though their markers have disappeared, they are even there today. So, thank you.